eBayers, welcome to episode number 206 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is February 26th, 2025. My guest is Heather in New York. Announcements. I finally posted my January sales update on YouTube, so if you haven't checked it out, please do. You can see what I sold, hear some customer stories, and see what I purchased and listed since the last sales update. Remember, I'm a real seller just like you out in the eBay trenches every day. Some days are better than others, but we are all in this together. Okay, now let's meet Heather. Hello, listeners. Welcome back. I have Heather with us today. And how are you doing this morning?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. And tell us where you're located.
So I live on Long Island in New York. I'm in Nassau County, which is like closer to Queens.
Okay.
So a lot of people think of Long Island as like a very, very wealthy Hamptonsy place, but we're like the suburban 50s idea of what like suburbia was going to be. So we're the transition from the city into like the nicer neighborhoods. I live in a great neighborhood. I don't want to say that, but it's not like these sprawling mansions. We're just in regular houses.
Right, right. Long Island has different parts.
Yeah, yeah, very different.
I've never been there, but I've talked with several people that live there and have friends that live there too. So we'll do some name dropping when we're not recording.
Okay.
So anyway, and how long have you been there?
Well, we just renovated the house that I grew up in, that my dad grew up in. So that's one of the reasons why I'm on eBay, because
Okay.
it came with so many things in it.
Okay. Great. Okay, well, we'll talk about that. So yeah, why don't you just go over what brought you to eBay and when that happened?
Sure. So, well, I started on Etsy selling vintage when it was like pretty brand new, and they were real picky about what was going to be on there. And so then it started to get kind of flooded by knockoffs and weird businesses and stuff like that. So I had moved over to eBay, and then when I got married and I got pregnant, I just stopped collecting things. I'm a collector. Like I love to buy weird stuff. And so, anything that I think is like interesting or different or I've never seen before. I have friends who are really into antiques. So we would go antiquing, and we would go to Brimfield, and Brimfield's like an 8 mile long antique show it goes 3 different times in the summertime in Massachusetts, and it's really, really big. And the East Coast is like very well known for it. And if you go in September, that's when everybody's packing up. So they don't want to pack things up, so they give you things for very little money, and it's great.
Okay, okay. So you've learned how
and
to work that.
yeah, and you can learn stuff from people too, because I think the dealers are so kind to, if you're like, I don't know what this is, what do you do with this? Then they explain it to you, and I have a good memory for those things. So then when I see them later, I'll know what they are.
Okay, okay. So pre-eBay, what kind of things did you collect?
Well, so I love walking wear. It's these like 1960s and 70s egg cups from England, and they have little legs and Mary Jeans on them, or little legs and like high heels. And they have teapots and teacups, but they're really known for their egg cups. When Charles and Diana got married, they did like a genuflecting one, like one down on one knee. Um, and they're made by Carlton Ware. And so I love them. There are not a billion left in the world. So whenever I see them, I would get really excited. And that was like the main thing I was looking for. But then I picked up weird things along the way. So I loved like wind up banks,
Uh-huh.
like where you wind it up and it collects the money in some way. I love California pottery and McCoy, and a lot of that 50s, 60s, 70s planters, like the smaller
Okay.
planters. Um, I think they're so pretty, and I think people like they either love them or they don't love them. Um, I like jewelry. For when I got married, instead of flowers, we did brooch bouquets.
Oh,
And I collected all those brooches. It was just me and my sister, so I did like ambers and greens, and hers was like blues and whites, and they came out great.
I've never heard
Uh,
of that. Brooch bouquets.
a
That's a
brooch,
thing in the craft world.
they were so big. I got married in 2011. They were so big in like 2009 to like probably 2013. I haven't seen any since. I wouldn't be surprised if they came around again, but like it was a huge thing. People would pay probably $500 for one. And if you're sourcing your brooches and you just make stuff, that would be an easy way to make money. But it's really hard to do because you have to wire it right, and they're very heavy.
Yeah.
Mine were
All
more
we
like,
need is somebody on TikTok to show one, and then they'll be popular again.
right, yeah. Well, mine was more like a little bouquet because it was so heavy. When we started doing it, I was like, how am I even gonna hold this? Um, and I love wooden toys, like any kind of like rolling wooden toys, any kind of handmade wooden toys. I'm not religious at all, but I love Noah's Arks.
Okay.
I had bought many of them over the years, and then I sold them like, what am I going to do with like a giant wooden Noah's Ark, But it's so cool to see, and there's something in me that's like, I have to find somebody for this. And so like I'll buy stuff and I'll enjoy it for a little while, and then I'll sell it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, kind of like how my eBay stuff is. And then a couple of years ago, so I had sold things over eBay a little bit at a time, but I really wasn't. Sometimes I would buy stuff on eBay. My account was active since like 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a couple of years ago, my dad passed away and we bought his house. And so we had his house that we had to renovate and my house that we were living in, which we had bought from one of my husband's relatives. And we had a lot of stuff, and we had to pay two mortgages on Long Island, which is like $8,000 a month.
Ah,
Yeah, it's hard. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna start selling stuff. Like, you tell me what stuff you want to keep, and otherwise, like, and my husband he doesn't care about anything. Like, he has no sentimental attachment to anything. And so I had my dad was a real collector too. My dad loved. We had a second house up in New Hampshire where he would go antiquing, and they would go to auctions and things like that. And he loved all that stuff. And when we sold that house, like that came to this house too. So we had two houses worth of stuff here, and maybe like one and a half worth of stuff at my other house. So I was like, all right, well, we're gonna pay some bills, and like I feel like if we have 100,000 things to get rid of, every time I sell something, I would just minus it in my head. So so that's what I started doing, and really by the it was a really long renovation. So by the end, it was, we were getting poor. We were running out of money. And so eBay was really how I bought my groceries
mm-hmm.
because, we'd sell 4 or 5 things a week, and that would be $100, and I could go buy groceries for the week, for the next week. So it was like our real lifesaver while we were having such a hard time. And I was still sourcing a little bit, like if things, if I thought, oh, well, this will go real quick and things like that. But I was really just trying to get rid of what we had and make enough money so that we could not worry about that extra bill.
Right. Well, yeah, I've been there. When I first started eBay, I was a single mom and lost my job, and I didn't know sometimes where the next dollar was going to come from. And that's why I did eBay was, I always ended up with enough money at the end of the month. But
Right, right. Well, because it's like
you're
about the
just
hustle, right?
you're just looking at your phone like, okay, what's the next sale going to be? And when
Right,
is
like,
it going
oh,
to
I'll
be?
just change this title. Oh,
Right.
I better change that title up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, and it's whatever eBay means to you, but a lot of people do rely on it for money to make their car payment or, whatever it is they're doing it for. And sometimes $100 is a lot,
yeah,
to pay
yeah.
that
And
next bill.
and and we were like anything that was really heavy, I would put on Facebook Marketplace. And then this summer we went to there's a flea market. They call it a flea market. It's really an antique. outdoor antique market that happens every Sunday in Connecticut called the Elephant Trunk. And it's every Sunday. Maybe it's like from April to October. Sometimes they go into November and December, depending on what the weather is. They kind of take it week by week. And you pay $50 and you set up your area outside. And so I had been sort of putting aside everything that was really heavy, all these planters and stuff like that. I don't want to ship them. I don't want to ship them. So I just haven't been listing them. And I don't necessarily have room for them. I have a 10-year-old boy and 3 dogs, and things break very easily in this house, it seems.
I bet.
So even though I love them, I want them to find a new home. So my sister and I had gone there for a full day, and we sold just as much stuff as possible, furniture, things that were from the old house as well. And so that was nice. And I got to kind of meet some people and see what they were doing. And some of them just save all their smalls for eBay and just bring all their big stuff. And they'll bring their smalls to, to the outdoor flea market thing. But it's not a flea market because it is expensive. So I don't want it to sound like it's cheap, because it's not. It was very expensive. But they have a lot of dealers and stuff like that. But almost all of them are online. They don't have stores anymore.
Okay.
So that was interesting to see like how they pack it all up and how they separate everything. And because I am disorganized. And
so what was your professional career, or what did you do before?
I'm a full-time public librarian.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
That's
so I'm great at research.
So you love all the research and looking things up.
Research. I started actually at our library. I work at a very small public library, but we had a lot of like McCoy pottery books or Hager glass or things like that, and they're not necessarily up to date. They don't publish them anymore, but you can see what's out there, right? Like Blanco glass, there's so much. And if you don't have a book to look at or like a source to look at, you don't even know. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 shapes, but you don't know all the other things. Or Pyrex. Pyrex makes some crazy stuff in the 60s and the 70s that you just never see again, because they were only on bowls and the bowls would break or whatever. So so we have like an antiques and collectible section that has all different kinds of those books that, now you can find them at a thrift for like $1 or $2, because they are like 20 years old. So the pricing's not correct, but you can find out the name of what
and the history
item is. Yeah.
And the history's not going to change. And I used to check out Couples guides from the library when I first got into eBay, selling more than just my own stuff, just to learn about what things were. And I really didn't pay any attention to the pricing. I just looked at the pictures and to learn about the names of everything and the history of it and why it's valuable. Because if it was in that book 20 years ago and it's still valuable now, that's something that you can look for and sell all the time. Some things that, it's just evergreen. They're just not going to change. And some things will become more valuable because they are getting older and they're not being made anymore. So I used to check those out from the library and just put them around my house in different places, the coffee table, the kitchen table, just whenever I had a minute, sit down and flip through it. So they're still helpful.
They still come out every year. Kobo still publishes every year. You can join them online. You can subscribe to them online, stuff like that. But they still publish a real book every year. And so does Overstreet, which does comic books. So like for people who are into comic books, Overstreet has up-to-date prices on what, you would expect. So it's a nice place for some people to look, because a lot of times we'll have people come in and say, my mom just passed away. She collected all of this depression glass. And I'm like, here's a book so that you can start listing it, or you could see if you can sell it and then maybe get an idea of what it is. I was like, but collections of depression glass, it's hard now if it's not pink. Green and yellow aren't going, white's not going. But if you can find somebody who's going to buy the whole lot, it's great. But like, I was like, but I don't really know much about glass. So maybe you want to find a glass person.
Well, and you being a librarian, you're a book person. Maybe you like to get your information from books. There's just something about that tactile experience of holding a book and turning the pages that's different than looking it up online.
Right. Well, but I also love looking stuff up online. And I have to say, like, there's been times where like what you have found out through trial and error is something that I learned about in my master's program, which is keyword searching. So we call it the handbag pocketbook problem. So when you can't find what you're looking for and you're searching for handbag, you have to think about other ways that people would call that thing.
Right.
So it might be a purse, it might be a pocketbook. So when I teach people how to use databases and how to do searches for themselves, we talk about that a lot about, thinking about things in terms of keywords and how another person would look for it, misspelling
Absolutely.
things and misspelling things all the time. I inherited a lot of vintage Christmas stuff. Besides shiny brights like Polish ornaments, hand blown glass ornaments, a lot of that like very kitschy 50s and 60s because my parents loved Christmas. I don't love Christmas. I have 3 dogs and a 10-year-old. So like we don't put a lot of stuff out and all that stuff will get eaten. I would rather, it went to somebody. My dogs are nuts. They're great, but they're like, we don't have a display house. It's just not a function of our lives. And so for me to know like my little Noel angels or the winking Siennas or stuff like that. I mean, they bought those things at Woolworths, you know, and
Hmm.
now they're worth so much money, but I would rather know that it went someplace. And my siblings have already, I was like, what do you want? And they were like, nothing. Our houses are full already. Like, I'll take one thing. And I was like, but I have 100,000 things. So they don't care that I'm selling them. They're happy that they didn't go in the garbage,
Hmm.
that's what they would have done.
Yeah, that's the problem with generations is the older generation. What are you going to do with all their stuff? And most people don't really downsize at the end of life. They just kind of enjoy what's around them and, you know, let the next generation do it, say, yeah, I don't care about this, I don't care about that. But they don't want to just have nothing. They want to
Right.
have their possessions, their nostalgia around them.
There's
So
a there's a
that's the
book called
downsizing problem for the
Yeah, well, there's a
children.
book called The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning.
Oh,
And it's a real tiny little book and it sounds morbid, but it's really about looking around and seeing what's the legacy that you want to leave for your people who have to come after you. So, like, now's the time. If you're not using something and you're not enjoying it, now's the time to pass it on to somebody who could use it.
exactly. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Um, Nothing wrong with that, but this is a common situation with elderly people that are either going to assisted living or who pass away suddenly is
yeah,
dealing with all their stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, I'm doing it. We're still doing it. I just sort of like anything that I thought could find a new house, I would pack away. And so our garage is totally full. So we had to build a shed for my husband's tools when we moved in because the garage is still full. I didn't get to that stuff. I thought I would and I didn't. And so now I'm like, but I can't get rid of it. Like I have to find its people.
Right.
uh, and so when I don't source a ton of stuff. I do clothing. I'll do jewelry if I see like vintage jewelry at the right price. I love plastic bangles.
Mm-hmm.
They can be worth a lot of money. Sometimes they're lucite, sometimes they're just plastic, but those 80s thick bangles people pay for. And at the thrift store, they're like 50 cents. And on Long Island, 50 cents is like never seen. We have the most expensive thrift stores in the universe from all the people that I follow online and see what they're spending on things. I can't imagine. I can't imagine it here. Sometimes we go down to North Carolina. My in-laws are in Charlotte. So
Oh, really? Okay.
we'll go all around there. They have a ton of Goodwills. We have maybe 2 Goodwills left on Long Island. That's it. They just closed them all down. We have I don't know, maybe 4 Salvation Armies, maybe 2 in each county. And there used to be one, you could throw a stone and you would hit one. And even independent thrifts, it's hard. It's hard to find stuff. Those little tiny church thrift stores, they're usually only open maybe once a week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not off on that day, then you don't go. But those are the ones that price cheap. and everybody else, they're mostly like these big stores, and they'll put, if they see anything with a Zara, it's going to be $20. Um, we have a big thrift store by us called American Thrift. I don't know if it's anywhere else in the country. We have
We
two.
had some in Georgia. They were called America's Thrift Store. Yep.
Yeah, this is called American Thrift, and there's one here and there's one out in Suffolk County, and it's huge, and they get a lot of new stuff all the time. But you'll be going through the racks, and there'll be a $70 sweater, an $80 sweater, and you're like, like I'm not, I'm not doing
Oh,
that
that's the
here.
thrift store price, $70.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
insane. Yeah,
it's
nobody's gonna pay that.
insane. So it's like, if you know enough to find the thing that you're looking for, like I could find wool blankets because they price them real cheap, and so I can get some old wool blankets that are worth like $100 for $2. But maybe I'll do that 2 times, and by the third time I go back, they're now priced at $20.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, all right, well, that's not really going to be worth it for me because I don't know if I can sell it. I don't know enough. It's not a Pendleton. I don't know enough about it to see if I, for $2, I'll take the chance. And even anytime like you're feeling that well made, you're like, oh, this is well made. I don't know what it is. And then you look at it and it's like $30. You're like, no,
No, yeah.
yeah, I can't take a chance on something I don't know. So I stick with like a lot of flannels and stuff like that. I won't normally buy dresses because they're just too expensive here. Um, if like, so you guys had talked about two things that I have taken from the podcast and put into my own life, which was online auctions. I started looking at the Goodwill auctions, which I probably never would have done. I would have been like, this is crazy not to see what I'm getting. And I did eyeglasses. And so for $20 with the shipping, it was maybe $10 and $10 shipping. I got a big box of eyeglasses, and I made, I don't know, maybe $60 off that and just donated what I couldn't use. And then, so then I did it again, and I made, I don't know, maybe a profit of $60. Maybe I made $80 altogether. But through that, I learned so much about eyeglasses because I'm just looking at all the things, reading about it. I looked at your videos on them
Oh,
and
great.
learned about cleaning them and things like that. And so like it's really interesting. And my husband's like, what are you doing with all these glasses? Like I get a box and I'm looking through them and I throw some to the side, I make like little piles. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, like look at this one. Now I know this name is important. It's not a brand name that I particularly know, but now I know like that's something to look for. These don't have a brand name, but they have to be old. So like maybe somebody I know will know about them. And the other one was silverware.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have bought like a bag of silverware. And then when we moved in this house, all of our stuff was in storage. So we had gone to the thrift and bought some plates and some silverware just to kind of get us through. I hate eating on paper. I think it's like the worst. And so the silverware that we bought ended up being like super old. And I sold it, maybe we bought it for $1 for like 5 forks, 5 spoons, 5 knives. And I sold it for like $70 on Facebook Marketplace. And I never would have even thought to list it even. I listed it in both places and it sold on Marketplace for somebody who wanted to complete a set. It might have even been theirs because they were local, but
They donated it and bought it
yeah.
back from you. Well, that's the thing is I am guilty of, I thought all flatware had to be sterling or really old, but I've seen so many posts where just your basic stainless flatware, it doesn't even have to be a complete set. It can be pieces that somebody needs, like, half of it got put in storage when we moved and we don't even know where it is. And so we're just going to complete our set until we have time to go through the storage unit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting when people have those eBay stores and you can pick what you want, like you pick a salad fork. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, one salad fork is $4. I'm going to sell a whole
Right.
set,
On the multi-quantity listing where you have
Yeah,
down and you can pick what you want. Yeah,
yeah,
that's great because buyers can just complete their set or, add to it if they want more, whatever it is.
yeah,
Those are very convenient for buyers. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting because I never would have gone for that. That would be something I would never look at. I love dishes. I love platters. I love things with like weird, or not weird, but like different patterns that I've never seen before. I love some of the like 60s and 70s patterns. Sometimes I'll find something with like hot air balloons on it, or some of those Danish ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love Danish pottery. Sometimes I'll find something and I'll be like, this has to be Danish. And I just bought something. I bought this like two-faced guy. It's like a bowl on top of a bowl, like a upside down bowl on top of a right side up bowl. And they have faces on them, like these little man faces with pointy noses. And I was like, it has to be a Bjorn Windblad. Like it has to be. And it has no markings on it. So I did a Google reverse image search, and it isn't, like it would have to be marked to be by him, but it looks so much like it. And so I had bought it because I was like, well, this is like hilarious and weird, and I like this little nosy person. um, but and that's I can't resist either, like glasses holders, like vintage glasses holders where you put your glasses on something.
Yeah, it's like a head and it has
Yeah.
like a funny face on it or something.
Yeah,
Right.
I have dog ones, I have owl ones, I have face ones, I have just noses. I don't know why I have to, like, I am literally like I have to buy them. I could sell them, but I also like I just have to own them for a little while. I'm like a troll.
So wait, back to that bowl on top of a bowl. What was the artist's name?
There isn't, it's unsigned.
You said you thought it was
Oh,
somebody.
I thought it was Bjorn Windblad. It's Bjorn. And then the last name is Wiinblaad. And he's got this like real particular style of drawing. And he also did some sculptures. But the way it would be, like you would buy these like white plates with like a teal, like a very beautiful teal print on them. It was like a town or like a bunch of people. And it was Danish, and I think they were from the 60s or 70s, but it might have even been the 80s because I think you can still buy stuff that he made from the studio that he ran. But it's like a very, once you see it one time, you'll never not see his thing, but they're usually signed. Um, and I think maybe in the early 2000s, I had bought a couple of things just because I was like, oh, this is weird. I like this. And I would buy these like things, and like I've bought a cross stitch Mona Lisa, because
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I like this, and I have this giant Mona Lisa. I brought it to the library, and I was like, we can hang this here, and they were like, we don't want it. And I was like, we're gonna hang
Oh
it.
no! How could you reject cross stitch Mona Lisa?
I was like, you guys have no idea the treasure you're rejecting. Um, but I always bring my weird little things to the library, and I use them in like we do bookstagram posts like for Instagram to advertise different books in the collection. So they usually have little props around them, so I'll bring in little things from my collection and we'll use them, and then I bring them home and I sell them. So we always have a new influx of weird little props for our stuff. Um, Sometimes I'll have like a bust or something that I am like a troll. Like I just will be like, I have these things today. Look at my treasures. And everybody goes, oh yes, these are nice treasures.
Well, does your library do book sales?
We do. I don't normally do books. I think because I get like fatigue from it. Because it feels like then everything could be valuable. I could sell
Mhm.
anything. Um, I like to buy when I'm out at thrift stores. I love to buy used art books and like sketchbooks and photography books because they don't run second prints on most of them. They'll only run it for a year and then it's over. So sometimes those are valuable, but also like I try to buy everything I like. I am my own best customer. So
Mhm.
if it's sitting around my house for the next 2 years, I'm happy to look at it. And so there's almost nothing I think that I've bought besides clothes. Sometimes I'll buy clothes that I think are worth something and then maybe they don't sell for whatever reason. like all my little tchotchkes and my jewelry and my like little uh paraphernalia. I don't even know what to call it. All my like stuff, my stuff. Um, all of that is stuff that I like. I buy things that I think are fun looking and attractive or interesting. So if I like it, then somebody like me likes it, right? And so you talk sometimes about how you wear, you wear the things, and I 100% get that. I love cardigans because I'm a librarian. I think it's like stereotypical, but totally true.
That's
I
your
love cardigans.
uniform.
I love it. And so I'll buy cardigans and I'll be like, I'll buy them for me. And if I don't like them, I could just sell them. Right. So
Mhm.
I thrift probably like 100 cardigans a year. And I could wear a new cardigan every day and no one would even notice. And because I'm thrifting them, I'll buy stuff that I probably wouldn't buy retail, things that are louder, beadier, full of flowers and stuff like that. Maybe not my normal taste, but I'll give it a try. Whatever, it's $2. And then if not, I could sell it because I'm gonna buy something that's a nice label. I'm gonna buy something that feels good. I'm not gonna buy a shine thing. So I also like wear my inventory because I'll be like, oh well, let me try this. Oh, it's not really for me. I'll sell it. So it makes me feel lucky because it makes me feel like kind of wealthy, even if I'm not wealthy.
Right. You
That
have lots of choices. I get
yeah,
bored. I like having choices.
yeah. Well, and the thrifted necklaces and stuff like that, I could wear, these crazy beads and just wear them one time, and I'm selling them. I love to buy vintage necklaces. I love to anytime I see something with a marking, if I don't know what it is, I'm happy to buy it for a few dollars. We went to Ireland this summer and I went thrifting while we were in Galway, and we went to a couple of other cities that I got to thrift in. But over there, it is real different. It is so clean. There is no garbage. There is nothing hung up that is not pressed and beautiful.
Oh,
So
wow.
I couldn't, I was like, but where's your junk? And they were like, this is our junk. I was like, but where's your gross stuff? Like if there was nothing that was stained, you didn't have to like look anything over because everything was perfect. They weren't going to put it out if it wasn't perfect. And they like pressed it. So they would have these like racks of not gowns, but like dresses, like work dresses or like casual dresses, not not gowns. And they would be maybe, I don't know, 7 pounds. So that would be like 14, like 10, 11, $12, something like that with the conversion. But they would be beautiful. You would be you would be like, these must be new with tags. And they weren't, but you would have just assumed no stains, no armpit, no, the zipper is great, everything looks perfect. So I was like, oh great. And they were always like Bowden or Zara or Banana Republic, or I mean, like really beautiful brands that you couldn't imagine you would pay $14 for a dress in that condition here. And then they always had like a lot of really interesting jewelry. They also had like a lot of underwear, which I thought was weird, but I guess it was more like slips, a lot of
Mhm.
slips put together and bras and stuff like that. They didn't really have a lot of kid stuff that like wasn't their the ones that I went to that were all in Galway. Some of the smaller villages that we went to would have an op shop, but it would be like or a charity shop, but it would be like just a few things. Not
Mhm.
it's not like we have here where it's like so much and so overwhelming. And so, but it was really interesting. And I got some lighter clothes and I got some jewelry that hasn't sold, but it's one's an Isabella Marant. I hadn't known about her. I just bought it because I thought it was like pretty. It's like these weird beads that I don't know what the rock. I don't know what the stones are, and that has like some coral on it.
Uh-huh.
Um, Isabel Marantz, Marantz. So she's
Okay.
like a European and there were tons of small label things too. Like I would have never known if I didn't look them up. I never heard of them because in Europe they have a lot of small labels and people buy from their one store. They'll go to Italy and go to this one store and buy from that designer. And
Okay.
then So it's really interesting. And they also like, they don't clean their clothes as much. So they like wear them very, they like change when they get home. It's like different than Americans. We wash clothes so much.
Hmm.
So they don't, they seem to take care of their clothes differently than we do.
Okay, better condition. Gotcha.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about some things you've sold?
Sure. So I recently sold a Murano glass sculpture that I got for about $20 in one of our thrift stores. It was like a, it looked almost like an Emmy,
Uh-huh.
but out of glass. And it was two people and they were naked holding each other's butts. And it was like that's where their hands were, but and like bald, you know. So it was like just two figures. And it had a sign on the bottom. It didn't say it was Murano glass. It didn't have the sticker, which I think is like a stupid way to mark something with a sticker. But so it, but it was signed on the bottom. And I bought it in June, and it actually just sold last week. I was so excited because it was like my first over 100 to report to the group.
Oh, good.
Um, and it was signed by Renato Anatra. And it was really easy to read. So when I looked at it and then I looked at the bottom and I saw it was signed and it looked like a heavy piece of glass and it didn't have any chips. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy this. I don't know what it is, but for $20 it feels really heavy. It feels really significant. So I just like then I did a Google reverse image search and they were like, it's the lovers, it's Murano glass, and it's worth $1 billion. And I was like, great, $1 billion. Well, it's not worth that much, but because
Unfortunately,
there
yeah.
are so many variations of this particular thing. Murano Glass had a series called The Lovers and has had it for many years. So this one was maybe made, this guy, Renato Anatra. Then I like found out all this stuff. You know, you go down the rabbit hole and then you become like an expert on this one thing.
Right.
Um, so this guy, Renato Anatra, he did these sculptures in the 40s and the 50s, but my two male figures, and then there are some that are two female figures, some that are a male and a female figure. Um, they're naked, but it's just their backs. So like
Uh-huh.
you really can't see anything. Some of them are like hugging, some of them are like holding each other. Some of them are definitely like in a like more passionate embrace.
Hmm.
Um, but they're all called the lovers. Some of them are like have colored glass throughout them. Mine was totally clear. Some of them have hair, like not hair, but like sculpted hair, like longer
Right.
hair. Mine were
Right.
two bald people. Um, and so it was really interesting because there were a bunch of different artists that did it. And my guy probably was the least expensive guy.
He was the lower end of the totem
He
pole.
was,
Right.
but it was really interesting because and it really it sat there for a long time and it had a lot of watchers and I would sort of play with the price a little bit. You know, I would send offers and nobody took them, so I'd play with the price a little bit to try to revive it on their feeds and stuff. Um, but I was like, you know what? It doesn't bother me. It could just sit there forever. It'll find its person. Like I don't I don't have to sell it. It's not taking up a lot of space. So and then it just sold this weekend. So it was great. And I
And
was so happy to send it.
how much did
It
it
sold for
sell
a
for?
$150 plus shipping.
Excellent. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I was excited because I really thought I was going to have to drop it and drop it and drop it. But
Hmm.
it seemed that seemed to be like kind of what it was going for. Not that they were going that much, but there weren't any others on eBay at the time that I listed it. So
Okay.
that made me feel better. I recently sold a Joseph Mézère blue turquoise glass bead necklace. It was restrung, so I only had listed it for $30. It was probably worth about $70 if it had been all original, but it was definitely restrung.
Hmm.
And then I learned all about Joseph Mézère, Mazer, Mazer. I think it was like Mézère. I don't know. Um, but so the clasp was the thing that told me that it was very, very vintage because, you know, the clasp was very ornate and had its own bead in it and things like that. And
Oh,
so, yeah, that's where I'm like, oh, well, that's got to be old because nobody does that now. Nobody has a fancy clasp. They don't put that kind of time and energy into it. Um, and I sell a lot of vintage bracelets um, of things that I have never seen and I have no education on, and I don't see anything like them on eBay. So somebody knows what they're buying, but it's not me. Um, I recently, so I love to buy lucite stuff. So if I see any like lucite desk, like desk organizers or anything for the office or anything that's like sculpture or something for the living room, I'll buy those all day. I recently got a business card holder. It looked like
Mm-hmm.
a fan kind of. And it was from Guzzini in Italy, Gzzini. And I hadn't heard of them, but it was to me definitely mid-century or 70s. It could go either way. But I could see clearly that it said Guzzini in Italy. So I was like, all right, well, I'll buy this. And I sold that for $14 and I bought it for $1.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Now, how do you tell the difference between lucite and just modern clear plastic?
plastic, I don't know.
Okay.
I make a guess on those things. When it's old, I assume that it's lucite. So bracelets, so bangle bracelets and stuff like that, um, those are hard because you can definitely tell between Bakelite and lucite, but lucite and plastic, it's hard. So to me, it's like a matter of dating, right? So if you can date it to the 50s and 60s, it's probably lucite. The 70s, it's probably lucite. The 80s, it's probably plastic,
Mm-hmm.
unless you can tell who the maker is. But it's really hard. Like, so I have this one that I just bought,
Oh,
and
neat.
yeah, it's really cool, right? And it looks almost gold, but it's really yellow. But it's got a weird like bubble here. I don't know if you can see it. It's got a weird
Okay.
like bubble in it. And so to me, that's probably not plastic because it doesn't show through to the back. I
Mm-hmm.
think then it's lucite, but I'm not sure. So I'm not listing it yet until maybe I can figure out something. I have a few things set aside to maybe join WorthPoint and like get eval. I have these end papers. They're like I put at an estate sale these like marbled papers, and I was like, oh, this must be like wallpaper or something. It wasn't scrapbooky. It was older than that, but it doesn't have a backing that's like, but it has a name across it, and the name across it, which I don't remember right now, is the name of a company that used to do bookbinding in England, and they shut down in like the 40s. So these end papers, which they were very famous for, these marbled end papers, I have some of. And
Okay.
now there's like museums that use their old end paper prints as like the outside of things. Like that's like they use the prints to like make notebooks and things like that. So I don't know if these are worth anything, but I like have to find somebody to evaluate them. But like I don't know any paper people. So I like put it aside and I thought, well, maybe Worth Point might be worth it to subscribe for a little while and see if I can get some.
Yeah, that's a good idea to put things aside and then just do a short-term membership to look all
Yeah,
those. Hmm.
yeah.
They used to have a free trial or a trial with 10 lookups or something. I don't know if they still do that.
I did. You could. I had bought once like an abalone brooch. It was like
Mhm.
a lady's face, but no face, like a head, but it was definitely a lady, and it had like a almost like a another piece over it, hat, and like something else, maybe lips, but I
Mhm.
couldn't tell what they were. I couldn't find anything about it, and so I paid the $40 for like a one time um appraisal, and the information I got back was amazing. Like it really was like very thorough, and they had appraised it at I think $80, but they didn't really have any information on it. They were going off of like comps and things that were like it and what they thought, because you just
Mhm.
send pictures, and what they thought that it was. So sometimes at the library we'll get an antique appraiser in, so then I always am like, oh, maybe I'll bring one of
Oh
my
yeah.
treasures. Um, and but so when I sold it, I was able to send the papers with it. So I was like, hey, I did get this appraised. So if you want to know more about it,
Right.
it's what this person said. Um, but it wasn't worth the money that I paid for the appraisal to then sell it. Like by then I wasn't really making a lot of money after it. But I thought, like, I've never seen anything like this. And I even went to a couple of jewelers that are local. And I was like, have you ever seen anything like this? Like, do you know somebody who might be able to tell me more about it? And they were like, I've never seen anything like it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even the clasp was weird. Like everything about it was really different than anything I'd ever seen. They thought it came from maybe South America. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, like maybe it was like a handmade there, and that's why the clasp was so made weird because it was like a handmade clasp, like a forged metal clasp.
Right,
So,
right.
um, bookends. I love bookends. I buy bookends every time I see them. I
Well,
love
that's not surprising for a librarian.
right, right. Yes, that's the thing. I love bookends. I'll never not love bookends. I love it when they match. I love it when they don't match. I could buy hundreds of them, and I sell them quite a bit. I like mid-century modern. You know, a lot of them are just like two pieces of teak put
Right.
together. You
They're
know,
very simple.
yeah. I have a very cool A to Z that I've had for a long time.
Right. She's holding up an A to Z,
A to
A to
Z,
Z bookends. What is that?
yeah,
Wood?
they're
Teak?
wood and they're like kind of curvy.
Yeah, they're
And I've had them
funky.
for a really long time, and now I'm ready to sell them. So,
Okay, let someone
um,
else enjoy them. Right.
yes, yeah, I pivot in and pivot out. Thinker bookends, they're not
Oh, thinking
rare.
man. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not rare, but a bunch of them were sold. They were made in the 1920s, and they have the date on them because they're I don't. Do you know how like bronze is made? So like they do a cast first, a plaster cast, and then they do the bronze casting. And so these ones are bronze cast thinker bookends made in like 1928, and there's many for sale all over the world. Like it's not, they're not super duper rare. Um, but I had them for a while, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna sell these, you know, because I've already enjoyed them, and now I will get, you know, I will find new bookends because I always feel like if I sell stuff, I'll find it again or I'll find something better. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And so it's like I got to see it. I even have like a little Instagram where I put stuff that I think is cool because then it's like I have it forever and I don't have
Right.
to own it, you know?
Well, one thing I've noticed about bookends is like if they're cast iron or they're super heavy, it's like, oh, that's going to be really heavy to ship. So I like the lighter weight wooden or just smaller sculptury looking things that are interesting but not super heavy. Like it doesn't weigh 25 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but then the ones that weigh 25 pounds, they don't really get broken, you know?
That's true. Good point. Yeah.
I'd rather that. I'd rather that than something that's gonna break. That glass sculpture, I was like wrapping it and wrapping it and wrapping it again, wrapping it again, putting it in a bag, putting it in another wrapping. I was just real determined for it not to break because I am. And that's why like I won't do planters on eBay because I just know I'm not gonna successfully pack it. I'm not.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no way.
Well, there's a risk there, even if it's perfectly packed. There's just always that risk.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why there's insurance.
yeah. But I definitely buy stuff and list stuff according to whether or not I want to pack it.
Right. Oh, everybody does. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Some people just don't care. They'll pack anything. Other
yeah.
people,
Oh yeah.
oh, let me think about this for a minute. Is the potential selling price worth the hassle, aggravation of packing if you don't really like to do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's stuff I always get real nervous about. My son loves Pokemon. I have become an expert in the things that my 10-year-old son has loved over the last 10 years. So I know a lot about Transformers. And if you can find old Transformers, they're worth a lot of money. But Transformers sold or a Chinese company in China bought the original molds for Transformers and have been manufacturing them since then under another name, but it's the same Transformers. So you have
Mhm.
to find the ones that are the original. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. So Pokemon, he really loves Pokemon, and so we went to Pokemon Go Fest. You go with a bunch of other people who love Pokemon, and you catch Pokemon in one place, and they like plant all these Pokemon. It's all over the phone. It doesn't make any sense to people who don't do it, but it's an event, right? So there's a Pokemon event, and we got T-shirts from it. Maybe the T-shirts were $10 with the ticket that was like very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
but they have these limited edition T-shirts. So my husband, my son, and I had all gone, and so one T-shirt is worth like $85 or $90 on eBay
Okay.
because it only happens in like two places in the world, and you can only get them if you go to the fest. So I have sold two of the T-shirts now. My husband insists that he's keeping his. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. But
Wait for him to leave and then, go in there like
I don't know where that T-shirt went. Yeah, but that's been like a really easy way. I mean, we listed it for the first one we listed for I think $80, and it sold pretty quickly. The other one we have for 75, I think, and it's not as quick because it's probably not. I think it's a small because that's what size my son was. Um, but that was like an interesting thing for me because I never would have assumed that. My husband had a T-shirt in the garage that literally in the garage from the
Uh-huh.
wire from the Wire TV show. I don't
Oh,
know how
okay.
he got it. I don't know what it was from some kind of promotional thing. One of our friends was like a key grip on that show and just had like a bunch of T-shirts, and
Uh-huh.
it's worth like 150 or $200 because it's like this one particular T-shirt. Like I am not a T-shirt bro. I don't know a lot about T-shirts. I see them. I don't understand the double stitching, like none of it makes any sense to me. But this is one of those T-shirts. I have it listed for $150. We have watchers on it, and I'm like, one day somebody's gonna buy it, and it's a T-shirt, so I could sit on it forever.
Hey, bump
Uh,
the price up $10 and see if anybody makes a
I've
move.
I've done it a couple of times,
Oh, you've
but
already done that.
it seems like they're just seeing if there's another one on there. But
Oh, maybe they have one too, and they're just seeing what yours does.
yeah, but I always leave the offers open because I don't mind it. I don't mind getting an offer. So
Okay. Well, it sounds like you have quite an eclectic mix of things. How many items do you have for sale?
like around 230.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
healthy. Good.
yeah. I don't have a store um at
Eh,
this moment in time. It's like a little bit more than I can wrap my head around.
right. There's a
Well,
threshold of where it becomes more financially advantageous to have a store. And the store is just, it's how you build your listings. You can run sales and markdown manager, things like that that are available to you that you don't have without
right.
a store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like smarter to spend my time maybe going through my older listings to see if I want to keep them up or retool them. Or sometimes there's things that I have literally just thrown up, with terrible pictures because I just didn't have
Mhm.
time and I just want to get it up there. And sometimes it's worked out great and sometimes it hasn't. So going back and maybe taking new pictures is not a waste of time for me, because it might be the thing that helps it.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Okay. Well, you've just been a wealth of knowledge today.
Hey,
Um, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And what are you up to later today?
well, I'm going thrifting today. Fridays,
Okay. Yeah.
Fridays are my day off. So like on my store, I say I only ship on Tuesdays and Fridays because I work on Saturdays. I'm the Saturday librarian. So Fridays is my day to like do all my chores. I have like one thing to ship. I don't do like pickup. I don't print my things ahead of time. I go to the post office. I'm pretty lame, but I'm also like super disorganized. So it's like this is the way my brain works, and I have to do it in this order. It doesn't make sense to me otherwise. I have ADHD, and so I think that's like part of my like I'm so interested in so many things because I like get hyper focused on them, and then I'm like I learn about that thing for a little while, and even like my son has taught me like about his little whatever's, and so he'll come to the thrift store with me and he'll always finds because he's looking for just his thing,
Right.
always
He
finds
knows.
something. Yeah. He's
Mhm.
always like, oh, look at this Dragon Ball thing I found. I'm like, all right, because he's the same way as me. So apple trees make apples.
So you have a day
So
off from the library, you're going to go thrifting and
gonna
just
go thrifting.
have a you day. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Good to
Yeah.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much again for coming on and sharing everything. And I think I'm going to title this The Eclectic Librarian.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Sounds fancy.
Okay.
I'd listen to that episode.
All right. Sounds great. Well, enjoy your day and we'll see you on Facebook.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
And now for some parting words. Let me clarify the numbers regarding eBay store subscriptions. These have changed over the years, so the numbers are just all jumbled up in my head. You can always check these on the eBay help pages for what's current. So there's the starter store, which I don't really recommend. This eBay says is best for sellers who have a handful of products and want a storefront to brand and promote their business. So it's $4.95 a month with the annual subscription. You get 250 listings a month. And once you go over that, it's 30 cents per listing. And you don't really get any benefits. You don't get the store coupon for $25 in supplies that comes out every quarter. You don't get access to features like Markdown Manager where you can run sales, and it's really just for your branding. So most at-home sellers have the basic store, and this one is $21.95 a month with the annual subscription. You get 1,000 fixed price listings a month, and then it's 25 cents insertion fee for any listings over 1,000. So that includes any listings you have that are rolling over for another 30 days, as well as what you're adding. You get 250 free auction listings in select categories. So you have to go to that help page and see what those categories are. Sometimes I run auctions and I'm charged because the item is not in those select categories. So that's where we stand with the store subscriptions that most at-home sellers use. And with the basic store, you do get that quarterly coupon for $25 worth of eBay branded shipping supplies. So that's a good perk. And then you get other features like the Markdown Manager where you can run sales. So that's where we are as of February 26, 2025. It's probably going to change again in the future, but that's where we are for now. Okay, next week my guest is Monica, who sells on eBay part-time. She also has an antique booth and a full-time job, so she is a busy lady. You will learn a lot from her, so you don't want to miss that episode. And thank you all for supporting this podcast and tuning in every week. Keep plugging along. The next sale could be any time now. And remember, it can't sell if it isn't listed. So tackle those piles. Have a great day. Talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.